How Nokia lost a $200 billion lead. Imagine owning the biggest phone company on Earth. In 2007, Nokia was unstoppable. Their phones were everywhere. From Europe to Asia, from teenagers to CEOs, Nokia dominated the mobile phone market. At its peak, Nokia controlled nearly 40% of the global mobile phone industry. No company seemed capable of challenging them. Then Apple introduced the iPhone. Within a few years, Nokia's empire collapsed. How did the world's largest phone company lose a lead worth hundreds of billions of dollars? This is the story of one of the biggest business mistakes in history. Most people don't know that Nokia started as a paper mill in Finland in 1865. Over the decades, the company expanded into rubber products, cables, electronics, and eventually telecommunications. When mobile phones started becoming popular in the 1990s, Nokia saw the opportunity before almost everyone else. While competitors hesitated, Nokia invested heavily. The result was extraordinary. By the early 2000s, Nokia had become the king of mobile phones. Their devices were reliable, durable, and easy to use. Millions of people carried phones like the Nokia 3310. The phone became legendary for its durability. Some people joked that it was impossible to destroy. Customers loved Nokia. Investors loved Nokia. The company generated billions in profit every year. By 2007, executives believed they were years ahead of the competition. The numbers seemed to prove it. Sales were growing, profits were growing, market share was enormous. Nokia wasn't just winning, they were dominating. The company had become a global symbol of technology and innovation. Whether you lived in Europe, Asia, Africa, or South America, chances were high that you either owned a Nokia phone or knew someone who did. Their products were trusted by hundreds of millions of people. Some models sold in numbers that seem almost impossible today. The Nokia 1100 alone sold more than 250 million units, making it one of the best-selling consumer products ever created. At Nokia's headquarters in Finland, confidence was at an all-time high. The future looked bright. Revenue was growing, profits were growing. Investors praised the company, analysts predicted continued success, competitors struggled to keep up. For many people inside Nokia, it felt like they had already won. And that's often where problems begin, because when companies dominate a market for too long, they can become comfortable. They begin protecting what they already have instead of building what comes next. Innovation slows down. Risk-taking decreases, decision-making becomes more complicated. Success creates confidence. Too much success creates overconfidence. And overconfidence can be deadly, especially in technology, because technology moves fast. Very fast. The products that dominate today can become obsolete tomorrow. Unfortunately for Nokia, the mobile phone industry was about to experience one of the biggest changes in its history. And that change wasn't coming from another phone manufacturer. It was coming from Apple. In January 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto a stage in San Francisco. The audience expected Apple to announce a new product. What happened next would change the technology industry forever. Apple introduced the iPhone. At first, Nokia wasn't afraid. In fact, many Nokia executives believed the iPhone would fail. From their perspective, it made sense. The iPhone was expensive. It had no physical keyboard. Its battery life wasn't impressive, and Apple had never built a phone before. Why should the world's largest phone manufacturer worry about a computer company? But while Nokia focused on today's market, Apple was focused on tomorrow's market. Apple understood something Nokia didn't. The future of mobile phones wasn't about making better phones. It was about creating better software. Customers no longer wanted a device that only made calls and sent text messages. They wanted email, internet browsing, photos, navigation, music, videos, and eventually apps for almost everything. The smartphone was becoming the center of people's digital lives, and Apple was leading that transformation. Nokia wasn't. Inside Nokia, problems were beginning to grow. The company had become enormous. Thousands of employees worked across different departments. Decision-making became slow, projects became complicated, managers often disagreed about the future. Engineers inside the company were already warning that Nokia's software platform was falling behind. Their operating system, Symbian, had been designed for an earlier generation of mobile phones. It wasn't built for the future Apple was creating, yet replacing Symbian would require massive changes. The company hesitated. Meetings turned into more meetings. Reports turned into more reports. And while Nokia debated, Apple continued moving forward. Then another major threat entered the market. Google launched Android. Unlike Apple, Google allowed other manufacturers to use its software. Suddenly, companies all over the world could build smartphones using Android. One company saw the opportunity immediately. Samsung. Samsung moved aggressively. They released device after device. Each generation became better, faster, more powerful. Consumers loved the competition. While Apple dominated the premium market, Samsung quickly became the leader of the Android world. Together, Apple and Samsung were changing the industry at incredible speed. Nokia struggled to keep up. The company that once led the market was now reacting instead of innovating. And that's one of the most dangerous positions a business can find itself in. By 2010, the warning signs were impossible to ignore. Market share was falling, profits were shrinking, customers were leaving, developers were abandoning Symbian, investors were becoming nervous. For the first time in years, Nokia looked vulnerable. The company needed a solution fast. In 2011, Nokia announced a partnership with Microsoft. The plan was simple. Nokia would abandon Symbian and build its future around Windows Phone. Management hoped this would create a powerful third ecosystem capable of competing with Apple and Android. On paper, it sounded promising. Microsoft had money, Nokia had experience. Together they hoped to change the market, but consumers had already made their choice. Developers had already made their choice. The smartphone battle was largely over. Windows Phone never gained enough momentum. Sales disappointed, market share continued to decline, and competitors continued pulling further ahead. Then came the moment that shocked the business world. In 2013, Nokia sold its mobile phone division to Microsoft. The company that had once dominated the global phone market had surrendered. The king was gone. What makes Nokia's story so fascinating is that they didn't fail because they lacked resources. They didn't fail because they lacked talent. They didn't fail because customers hated their products. They failed because they underestimated change. Success convinced them they were safe. Success convinced them they had more time than they actually did, and by the time they realized the market had changed, it was already too late. For entrepreneurs, the lesson is powerful. The biggest threat to your business is often not failure. It's success, because success can make you believe today's strategy will still work tomorrow. But markets evolve, customers evolve, technology evolves, and businesses that stop adapting eventually get left behind. Nokia learned that lesson the hard way, a lesson that cost them a lead worth more than $200 billion. And that's why the fall of Nokia remains one of the greatest business mistakes in modern history. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more billion-dollar decisions, business successes, and corporate failures that change the world.